Okay, so we're on day 4 of the 5-day challenge. So before we jump straight into today, which is all about your purpose, really your purpose, living on purpose, which is one of those things that I think is often mystified in the personal development world. So I'm going to debunk a lot of it and just give you a really simple checklist of things to do to get in alignment with that and start living on purpose. Okay, so before we jump into that, I'm just going to open up the lines. Who had some aha moments overnight? Who integrated things and thought about things and made a little bit more sense, or had any questions for me? Just keep in mind, each time you share, other people get way more benefit than what you actually realize from it. Who would like to go first? Who's got something they'd like to share? Any insights? Anything they learned? Yeah, go, Alex. Hi.
Yeah, you know what? And good morning. And I've done my hair as well. Can you tell? Like, I'm a bit disappointed you didn't notice that. No, jokes aside, I think, you know what? It was actually the question that worked quite well for me. Is like, what conditions do I believe exist to achieve that goal? And I think just asking that question, it's not a question that you would naturally come up with. It's not like, like you just don't think that way. Well, sorry, folks, I'm not putting you on the same basket as me.
People don't think that way.
Yeah. I don't think that way. I don't think, oh, what conditions are? It's just by doing that, by asking yourself that question. And I asked it a couple of times and it worked. It's sort of like, why am I putting conditions on this? Why do I have to be X to be Y? And I think that, to me, my answers was rubbish, and I'm not even going to repeat them. But it was just interesting that just by doing that one exercise was quite, it was really good. It was almost profound. It was like, crying out loud, why didn't I ask myself that question before? So.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. That's awesome. And thank you, because I'm sure that there are people in this room right now that may not have got around to actually even looking at the challenge so much. So, look, and I mean, one of my very first mentors, John DeMartini, I remember the thing that very first drew me to his work was what you've just said there, is that the quality of our life is determined by the quality of the questions that we asked. And I remember thinking, well, shit, I want to know what these questions are. What are these questions that everyone knows that I don't know?
Yeah.
Turns out everyone doesn't know them, but turns out that once you do have them, you've got them. So awesome. Game changer for you. That's awesome.
It was good. And if anyone hasn't done it, just keep asking yourself the question. It sounds a bit sort of gimmicky, but just ask yourself the question, to keep doing it. And then if you think you've got it, then ask yourself again. And if you think you keep doing it, because I met you on the DeMartini course in Sydney, like 4,000 years ago. Well, no, you're not that old. But as far as like, so he does that whole thing about asking yourself, doing the work ongoing. You mentioned it yesterday about 200. You integrated the work with your family life, giving yourself 200 reasons why. It's the DeMartini way. And I think what you've done is, spot on.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Good question.
Oh, that's beautiful insight. That one, by the way, is not that question though is not care of DeMartini. So,
sure. No. It's the methodology of just keep asking.
Yeah. His work doesn't talk about belief systems a hell of a lot.
Okay.
He doesn't talk about, he talks about beliefs, he touches on it, but
right.
That's where we do a lot more around belief systems, or I do a lot more around belief systems now that I've sort of found that was, his work's amazing, don't get me wrong, but there's some areas that we've plugged some different things in. Awesome. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Okay, who else? Anyone else have any insights, anything that landed for them last night? Any struggles with doing the challenge? Anyone have no idea what's going on? Anyone? Okay, awesome. Ronda, how about you? Where are you up to? Usually you chat away and we've hardly seen you for ages.
Yeah, I'm struggling.
Okay.
which is why I'm back here.
Okay. Oh, well, thanks for being here. If you need, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. Make sure that you reach out. Even if at the end, if hopefully this will make a bit more sense for you, and see how we go at the end. Okay. Is there anything else? Is there anything specifically that I could help you with, or any questions that you would like answered?
No, it's kind of big and broad, and it's all a bit much for a quick fix, I think.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. No problems. Okay. Well, let's move right along into day 4. Let's move right along into day 4. Okay. So we are, where are we? Okay. So we've spoken about your beliefs and your values, and how those two work together. We are unconsciously running, unless you're consciously aware of what's going on. And the majority of people set their goals based on trying to seek that and avoid that. Okay. So this here is really just your ego trying to resolve itself. Okay. Constantly you're trying to seek pleasure and avoid pain in whatever you perceive that is. So yesterday I was hoping that she'd be on here. Oh yeah, Catherine, you are on. Or no, that's Katana. So I hope Catherine jumps on, or can jump on the replay anyway. Because also when it comes to your belief systems as well, is you will have predominant belief systems that are running in the background. For example, if you are, and I'll just give you a quick example of how this plays out in a practical sense. Okay, if you are somebody that has a belief system, a predominant belief system of I'm not worthy, okay, that's a pretty common one, right? Lots of people have this belief system running in the background. When you have a belief system of I'm not worthy, which is down here, you will set goals and go for things and set up circumstances to try and prove your worth to yourself and others, whether it be others approval seeking, or seeking your own approval, or a combination of both. So if you're down here perceiving that you're not worthy, you will set up goals to prove your worth. Okay, they'll have nothing to do with what's in alignment with your soul's purpose. They'll just be there trying to resolve that part of your ego. The problem with this is if you do achieve a goal that actually everyone goes, wow, that is so valuable, thank you, that was really worth a lot, that that you did that and can provide us with that, thank you, and you get all the accolades and all the rest of it, instantly you won't believe them. Instantly you won't believe them, and you'll sabotage and drop yourself back down there, and you'll find yourself in this oscillating pendulum between there and there, between trying to prove your worth, then trying to prove you're not worth, then trying to prove your worth, then trying to prove you're not worth. Does that make sense to everyone? So when you've got these belief systems that you're not aware of in the background, so for those that are, for anyone that is thinking about jumping on the 8-week program, although allow 9 weeks, because usually I do go over a week or two, allow 9 or 10 weeks, but we'll call it an 8-week program because I've got 8 weeks of content to go through. I will be, for the first time, going through your Enneagrams, which is different sort of predominant personality, archetypes that will allow you to identify which one is playing out most often for you. But keep in mind that, keep in mind that different levels of stress trigger different belief systems to be triggered. That's really what it all comes down to. Okay, so, because also when you're operating from here, you're operating from a stress response. And if you're trying to set goals that are in alignment with your soul's purpose when you're in a stress response, and when you're behaving from a stress response, It'd be kind of like right now, if your laundry was on fire and you've gone, oh, I think I'll just start, like working out plans to, redesign and redo my kitchen. No, you wouldn't do that. Like I'm looking at a practical sense. Right now, if your laundry was on fire, you'd go and put your bloody laundry out. You'd throw water on it. You'd get a fire blanket. You'd call the fire brigade. You'd deal with what is immediately in front of you, which is the crisis. You're not looking at big picture of like, let's set our goals and let's work out how we're going to redesign the kitchen and what we're going to do and, which cabinets we're going to pull out. You would attend to the fire. Okay. So it's the same with your goals. If you're operating from there, if you've got beliefs, running in the background that are running the show that are keeping you in a stress response, it's going to be incredibly challenging to start setting goals that are in alignment. Okay. So today we'll be talking about how to clear some of those stressful emotions that are keeping us stuck as well, because it also takes more than just identifying what your belief systems are. Okay. We also need some tools and strategies on, okay, how do we take our perceptions from here to here? So the two really work so beautifully together to help you get where you would like to go. Okay. So it's accelerating towards a life that you would love. Okay. This is really, okay. Taking action, taking inspired action, not being busy doing stuff. Okay. I think, do we all get the distinction from that yesterday? The busy doing stuff is in last night's challenge, trying to meet all these imaginary conditions that you've put on yourself of what needs to exist, what circumstances need to exist before you can achieve your goals, is the busy doing. Okay. But taking inspired action is when you let all that drop away and you just do what's highest priority. Okay. So there's a difference between the two. And sometimes it's a fine line because we're so used to, you've spent your whole life, so think about how many decades you've spent trying to fulfill these imaginary conditions. Sometimes it's really quite challenging to pull yourself up in it and go, hang on a sec, that's just a condition that's just an illusionary condition that I've, put on this that has to exist before I can have what I want. Okay. So also as well is from now on as well, I'd love you to use your emotions as your own personal GPS system, and they'll let you know if you're in alignment or not. So like there's sort of, if you're in an emotional state, just know that you're hanging out here somewhere, and it's not a criticism. It's just an awareness that okay, I'm here. Certainly don't be setting your goals from that point. If you're out here and you've already set your goal, that's the thing. If you're out here and you've set your goals when you were in alignment, because I wouldn't suggest that you set, really, like really heartfelt goals when you are in a massive stress response, because they're less likely to come from that really heartfelt, inspired place. They're more likely to be coming from, seeking and avoiding. Okay. So it's very simple. If you're feeling bad or stressed, then you're not in alignment. And if you're feeling enthusiastic, inspired, certain, then you are. Okay. Just use them as a checklist. So what do we do if we're out here? Well, I was so hoping that Catherine would jump on for this, but that's okay. Catherine, if you're watching this, because this will answer your question from yesterday. Okay, so what to do if you're out here? I'll just do a quick deviation. The predominant emotions that come up for people, I generally find can be lumped into a form of fear, a form of guilt, or a form of shame. Okay. Fear is when, fear, anxiety, if anyone suffers from anxiety, that's, a pretty big one, these days. And anxiety is just a selection of scattered fears of things from your past that you'd like to avoid for your future. Okay. So That's really what it is. So fear, that's the driving force then. So what questions do we ask if we're in a fear state? Well, the first thing is get really clear on what it is that you're fearing. Okay, get very clear on what it is that you're fearing. Come on, there's plenty to fear. You know, the world has provided us with so many opportunities at the moment. How kind. So that you've got heaps of things to practice with. So you look at your fear and you write it down, okay? Because then you're less likely to get distorted, particularly if you're new to this work. You write it down so that you're very clear on it. What is it that I'm fearing? What is it that's really triggering me that I've got a stress response for? Now, generally, when I work with people and, you know, people that come on and do my more advanced course, we go right into, you know, exactly the origins of where that fear came from. We go back to, we do a regression to your earliest memories, because if we can knock it out from your earliest memories, then it has the biggest impact in the now. Okay. However, I'm not going to complicate it for those that are just beginning out in this work. You write down your fear, and then you write down, you write down your fear. And then if that were to come true, how would that actually be a benefit to you? Okay. If that fear was to come true, how would that actually be of benefit or service to you? And then you can ask the same question in the opposite way. If that fear didn't actually manifest, how would that be a disservice to me? So what you're doing is you're really just taking the sting out of it from both perspectives. The fantasy of if it didn't happen, and the reality or the nightmare of if it did happen. And we're bringing your mind back to the center just from there. Or maybe it's something that did happen. Maybe it's something that did happen that you were really fearing happening, and then it happened. You ask yourself the same question. What is the benefit that this has happened to me? And if this hadn't have happened to me, which was the fantasy, what would be the disservice? So, for example, yesterday, Catherine's example of, getting criticism from clients, you just simply go right on your page, getting criticism from clients. You look at what are the benefits to that happening. And by the way, write it out more than once. Don't just write down one or two benefits. Write it down until you feel a physical shift, till you feel your heart open. Until you go, oh, okay, like I'm kind of, I can see that maybe that wasn't as bad as what I thought that it was. Okay. Shame and guilt are very similar. Shame and guilt are the other emotions that run around. So yeah, 3 emotions are ruling your life right now. They manifest in many different ways and many different scenarios, but fear, shame, and guilt are what's torching your life. Isn't that funny? It's just really 3 emotions wrapped up in different, different versions of itself. So for shame and guilt, shame is something that you perceive that you're not good enough because of who you are, something that you've done or not done. And guilt is where you perceive that you're not good enough because you've hurt somebody, your actions or inactions, you perceive it's caused somebody else more challenge than support. Okay, in a nutshell. So if that's, we'll go through those ones in more detail in the program, because those ones I won't leave you with those ones, because those ones can, they can get a bit more tricky to decipher. But fear, that's probably the main one that runs around for people. Fear, you look at the nightmare, which is the reality of it manifesting, and you look at the benefits, which brings you back to the center. Then you look at the fantasy, if it didn't happen, and you ask what would be the drawbacks. So all of the questions that we're asking ourselves, every single question that we ask on these programs is helping you get back to your center, where you can see the bigger picture. Okay, because when you're in a stress response, you're not seeing the bigger picture. Our brain is designed this way, that when we are in a stress response, our focus gets very narrowed. When we are in a stress response, our focus, we can, with pinpoint accuracy, we can really focus in on what's going on, but we just block off everything that's happening in the periphery. Okay, you can't see the bigger picture when you're stressed. You really can't. You get caught up in the details. Has anyone noticed this happening and playing out in their own life, that they get caught up in the small details? Yeah, awesome. Sorry, just a moment. The sun's just come out. It's bizarre. Was it cloudy when we first started? I'm just going to close my window quick. Sorry, thanks everyone. I get glare on my computer screen. I can't see what's going on. Okay. Okay, so did that make sense to everyone, what to do about fears? Yep, awesome. Okay, that's great. If you're on the replay and you're not sure, post it up into the group and tag me in. Okay, so just quietly ask yourself, what has been your predominant pattern this past few weeks or months or even years? Is it feeling good or is it feeling bad? What has been your predominant pattern? Okay, and this is like, this asking that question to yourself at the moment. I mean, the last couple of years has been, not our typical couple of years. So it might be a different answer that it would be normally. Okay. So living on purpose. Here is the checklist. Because it does frustrate me. I do find often in the personal development world, it's kind of mystified as to what it takes to live a life that's on purpose. It's an attempt to sort of, polarize so that you'll buy a course or buy a book or whatever it is. But really it's pretty straightforward. Okay. And so I don't know, you might want to write this down, you may not, that's okay. So the first thing is to really sort of become aware of your beliefs. Become aware of your beliefs so that they're not constantly conflicting with your values. Okay, so inner conflict is when your belief systems are in direct opposition with your values. I'll share an example with you. I once had I don't know, those that were with us at the very beginning, I'm not sure if you remember Jess from years and years ago. She was in marketing. Do you remember Jess? Yeah. God, that was going back sort of probably about 5 years ago now. And she was someone who had a very high value on spirituality, or also had a great business, really good marketing business. But she just found that she couldn't, she had everything set up to do really, really well. She'd get a high-end client and then it would slip away. And, she often found that she was chasing her tail. So then we went into, on beliefs. This was when she was doing the 8-week program. We got to beliefs week and she was like, she said, I don't know what's going on, but my business, it really I should be hitting, consistent, 30, 40, 50 grand months. I'm all set up to do it. And I'm often struggling to make sort of, 4 to 5 grand. Like, it's nuts. I can't work out what's going on. When we went in there, so the other thing as well is with belief systems, your parents pre-programmed them there. So have a look at what your parents' belief systems are about certain things. When it came to money, because that's what she was looking at, she had been indoctrinated from a very young age that spiritual people were not wealthy. Okay, she said, I can hear my dad so clearly saying this when I was a little kid, that, spiritual people, like people that are rich, they're not very spiritual. They don't have a connection to spirit. And the penny absolutely dropped when she realized that was what she was playing out. She said, my highest value is spirituality. My second highest value is my business. And they are in direct opposition because I don't want anything undermining my highest value. But she was very unconscious of this. So once she was aware of it and we put some steps in place for her, that week she went on. She came back the very next week and we went, how'd you go after that, belief session? And she was like, amazing. I just signed like $8,000 worth of work in 1 week. Like, she said, that's more than what I'd normally do in a month. And I just did it in 1 week. So, that's an example of how your beliefs and your values can be in conflict with each other. So it's worth aligning them. Okay. It's really worth aligning them. If you feel that they are not in alignment right now, then I would encourage you to get in contact and speak to me about, find out more about the next course, see if it's something that you can jump on, because you'll get huge value from it. Okay, the next thing is understand your values better than anything. If you struggle doing that worksheet and you're not really sure what your values are. Now, I know as well, a lot of people, like, well, it's early days. It's your first time that you sort of come across this worksheet. And I'm like, a lot of people are sort of, writing things that are not considered necessarily values when I'm speaking about them. When we're talking about the areas of life that are the most important to you, more so than emotions or sort of social idealisms of, like honesty or integrity or that sort of thing. We're talking about, okay, is my family important to me? Is my health important to me? We don't set aside 3 hours, we'll set aside an hour a day to exercise, because health is important, but we won't necessarily set out an hour a day for integrity, because that's just something that we do along the way. That's just a desired character trait along the way. So know your values, understand your values. If you're not sure what they are, this should be a really big red flag for you right now as to why things are kind of not going the way that you'd like them to. Okay. So understand them better than anything. We get to know our partners, we get to know our best friends, we get to know our kids. Get to know yourself. That will pay the biggest dividends. That will really pay the biggest dividends. And by the way, if also you're having challenges within personal relationships at the moment, keep in mind, if you don't know your own values, okay, and you don't have an awareness of your belief systems and what's playing out, you can't know somebody else to a greater degree than what you know yourself. Okay, so if relationships are important to you and you're going, oh yeah, no, that's okay, relationships are important to me, my relationships are good, but then you don't know what your values are and you don't know what your beliefs are, you're kind of kidding yourself. It's a bit of an illusion. Okay, so just calling you out on that one. Okay, then the third thing is learn the art and science. My lights are really weird today. Usually I'm like nice and bright. It's like I've sort of gone in a shadow all of a sudden. Learn the art and science of clearing your stresses, okay? Learn the art and science of being able to consciously and deliberately bring yourself out here to in here, okay? That is one of the most valuable things that you can do for yourself, is learning how to do that. Okay, knowing that you are in any given situation, it doesn't matter what you back yourself into the corner with, that you are a matter of sitting, anything's about half an hour to an hour away of you getting out of that you can just sit down with a pen and paper and coach yourself. Okay, it's incredibly empowering. For those that have done that, do you find that empowering to know that you can just sit down with a pen and paper and go, okay, cool, I'm going to nut this one out. Okay. And then it's simply, you just spend more and more time each day on the things that fulfill you. Okay. You just spend a little bit more time taking action on the things that are inspiring to you, on those heart-centered goals that you've got. Okay. It's not, you don't need to overhaul your life. If you're in a job or a career that you don't love right now, if you're in a situation that is you're perceiving is like actually quite low in your values, you don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Okay. You can quite simply just start taking a few steps that are in the right direction. Okay. Just spend an extra half an hour a day or even an extra 10 minutes a day working and doing something that's meaningful to you. Okay. And that's literally all that it takes. Trust me. I have been here. I know I very first found myself in this situation when I had my first baby, and all of a sudden I've gone from a career and working and doing what I love to all of a sudden just like that first, month or two when you're stuck, where you perceive that you're stuck with a newborn, you're just in this Groundhog Day of like, just, okay, all I'm doing is just like feeding, changing, bathing, like my whole life is just on a Groundhog Day. And I found that, all of a sudden, not doing something that was inspiring to me each day, my self-worth took a hit because I wasn't living in alignment. Even though this baby was a value to me, I wasn't doing things that I perceived were meaningful to me. And I went, okay, well, the reality is I can't change everything right now. I'm here, I've got this baby to look after. What about if I just did 10 minutes of something a day that was true, inspiring to me? And that's all I had time for. It's literally all I had time for. And I can't tell you the difference that it made. Okay, so that's like an extreme scenario, but whatever you're in right now, just doing an extra 10 minutes a day of something that's inspiring to you will make all the difference. And then when you've got time, you just double that, turn that into 20 minutes a day, then turn it into an hour a day. Okay, so just start with what you've got, start with what you know, and let that grow. Okay, just start with where you are and just add a little bit on. Okay, you don't need to go and quit your job and overhaul things and, make these drastic changes all at once. Be gentle with yourself. Just take inspired action towards that which you will love. Okay. Because also, you've had a lifetime for this conditioning. So, give yourself a bit of time to unravel it. Okay. Okay. And then the next one is not subordinating to outside authorities. If you are subordinating to outside authorities, that will throw you into chaos. If you are taking ownership of yourself, of your values, of the life that you would love, if you're taking back control and getting empowered, that's order, that's clarity, that's where your clarity is. Okay, you cannot have clarity about your future if you are subordinating to authorities. Or if they're the predominant. I mean, we're all subordinating to authority in some way, for shape or form. But if that's your predominant pattern, is subordinating and setting goals that you think will please other people, okay, which by the way isn't a goal that's there. That's a goal that's up there. And then it's futile. It's not going to give you that life satisfaction and life purpose, because others are not committed to fulfilling your highest values. Nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, oh, how can we help? How can we help you to fulfill your soul's purpose? They may have moments of it, but really it's your job. Okay. It may not have necessarily, like with all the beliefs and conditioning and all that, like I said the other day, it's not your fault that it's there, but it's your responsibility to do something about it. Okay. Okay. The time to blame our parents, that's done. Okay. It's time for you to take responsibility. It's that simple. And if you are, like the thing is as well, is that with the program that I do, the 8-week program, the reason that I do that over 8 weeks and not just over, a weekend workshop, is because I know, like, who's done a weekend workshop and then come away and gone, that was amazing, that's changed my life, and they're going good for a couple of days, and then within a couple of weeks they're back to their old habits again. Who's had that? Yeah, I've had that too. And don't get me wrong, like, in terms of me and my business model, if I was to do that, that would probably suit me better. It's easier for the facilitator, right? Because we've just got to plan a weekend and then away we go. But what's the most beneficial for you is to add this in layers, to add each step in detailed chunks and in layers, to give yourself a chance to integrate it, to be able to see which, how this part works, to ask questions, and then to add the next layer on. Okay, this is where habits are actually formed. A weekend workshop is setting you up for a peak and a peak and then a crash. It's actually setting you up for this cycle here. Whereas when we work together over a longer period of time, we can just add a layer, add a layer, add a layer. And that's where you get, that's where you're more likely to get lasting results that are actually satisfying. But also, most importantly, that's where you actually start, kicking goals and achieving things that are really inspired. Because you can't just go to the gym once and expect yourself that you're going to be buffed. Like if we just did a weekend fitness course, you wouldn't expect that you'd walk out with the toned body that you wanted. But if you did a fitness course that went over a couple of months, you go, yeah, I'm planning on seeing some results at the end of this. So, because you must be willing to change, and this does take a little bit of time. Okay, so how much better? Just a quick check off for yourself. Now, by the way, is anyone thinking about doing the? And if you're on the replay, just drop an emoji into the group. Under the replay. Just let me know if you are thinking about doing the 8-week course, so that I know how many people. I know that there's already about three or four that are interested. Is there anyone here that's thinking about doing or would like to know more about the next course? Yep, awesome. Okay. Well, I'll put some details up into the group. Okay, so just quickly check off with yourself right now and ask yourself, how much better would things be for you right now if you were running your belief systems and your values in alignment? And then you just committed to spending just a little bit more time, you know, even if it's just half an hour each day, doing more things that are meaningful and fulfilling to you. Okay. What difference would that make to you if you were in alignment and then you actually just started taking just a little bit more inspired action each day? Okay. Because in the beginning, it actually doesn't need to be that much to make a big difference. It's the habit that counts. Okay, it is the habit that counts. And by the way, nobody self-sabotages. There's no such thing as self-sabotage. There's just values and belief systems that are, you know, not in alignment with each other. And on some level, it's more comfortable. Okay, so we can help you unpack that, because if knowledge is power, then knowledge about yourself is self-empowerment. And then knowledge, you know, and if you're serious about this, I know that you'll do what it takes, not just what's convenient right now. So, so thank you so much, everyone, for day 4. Now we're going to just jump straight into, now today, we're going to have a look at, so that's the end of the content, but I wanted to show you the conflict deconstruction process. Now, by the way, for those that do the 8-week course, I will personally take you all through this process. Okay, you all get one-on-one time with me in that course. You know, and I will personally take you all through this process. Okay, but for now, what this allows you to do is it just brings awareness. Okay, it's not a resolution process; it's just a deconstruction, so you can actually see how you're actually co-creating and how your belief systems. You know how, you remember, and was it day 2 when I said, you know how we take like credit for the good stuff that happens in our life? Oh yeah, I created that. And then the bad stuff, we just kind of go, oh, well, that was some random thing that happened to me, wasn't it? What this allows is for you to take ownership and see how you've co-created some of the conflicts in your life. So Narelle has kindly volunteered. How are we going for time? Okay, okay, Narelle, how are you going?
Good.
Are you unmuted? Are you ready to go?
Yep.
Excited? No, okay, that's good. Okay, so what is the problem? What is the problem that you've got for us today?
Mark.
Okay.
Conversation we had on the phone the other day.
Okay, and so what was the problem?
The problem is the control, the telling me what I should be doing.
Okay, so the problem is telling me what I should be doing. Telling me. Okay, so what I should be doing. Okay, because generally, who hates being told what to do? Yeah, most of us. Okay, nice and clear and concise. What is the problem? Telling me what I should be doing. Okay, so when he was telling you what you should be doing, what thoughts did you have? What thoughts were triggered as a result of that?
Quite a bit of guilt and shame, actually.
Okay, so what are the thoughts, not the feelings?
Yeah. What are the thoughts? I'm not good enough. Like I'm not worthy enough to, or I'm not strong enough to create my own.
Okay.
Or I'm not. It's almost like I could see what I wanted to do and the choices I wanted to make, but I didn't feel that I felt empowered enough or strong enough to do it.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, that's perfect. Is there any other thoughts?
I'm
not good enough. I'm not strong enough.
I'm not smart, not smart enough. Can't make decisions for myself.
Okay. Okay. So when you're having those thoughts of I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, and I'm not smart enough to make decisions, what are the feelings that you then have as a result of these thoughts?
The three main feelings.
Okay.
Fear that, like, worry that I can't, worry, concern that, maybe I can't get this done for myself and I need a man to do it.
Okay.
Okay. Then regret, like guilt, because I didn't kind of chase what I thought, I wanted.
Okay. Okay.
So sad, anger, sadness. Instantly got really quite angry and resentful.
Okay. Anger, sadness, guilt, regret, and worry. Okay. Okay, so when you were feeling worry, regret, guilt, anger, and sadness, we're going to look for the definition and the meaning about the story, the belief system that was triggered, what you started to make this mean about you. Okay, so what did you make this mean about yourself? When you were feeling this way, what story did you start to attach? What did you start to make this mean about you?
That I'm not good enough.
Okay, I'm not good enough. Okay. And then, so what did you start to make this mean about the others? What did you start to make this mean about Mark?
That he's got the power and control.
Okay. So you trigger the belief he's got the power and control. Okay. And so then what do you start to make this about the world at large? Okay, if you're not good enough and he's got the power and control, what does this mean about the world?
Only certain people get to live a happy, successful life.
Okay. Okay, only certain people get to live. Was it what's the certain? Can you elaborate on what certain means? What's that certain?
It's like the lucky people, like,
okay,
yeah, it's those people, not me. Those people. Other people.
Okay, so there's only certain people in the world that are lucky enough to live a happy life. Okay. Okay. So, what was the underlying assumption then when you were in that? When you were in that conversation, what was the underlying assumption for you? Okay, when your belief that I'm not good enough, he's got the power and control, and only certain people get to live a happy life. What's the underlying assumption for you?
This question always confuses me. The assumption.
So, like, the conditions that you think are the conditions that you think are playing out right now. The assumption of like the conditions that are present.
Well, the underlying current that seems to be continuing is that I'm like, I did the bad thing. He's the good person.
Okay. Okay. So the underlying assumption is I did the bad thing and he's the good person.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So where was the power? So the power is in how you resolve. So just for everyone watching, when you're in that state, when you're in a conversation and your underlying belief is I did the bad thing and he's the good person. Okay, and I'm not good enough and he's got the power of control. Would you agree that that creates a certain amount of tension inside you? Yeah. Okay, so tension will always seek to resolve itself. Okay, and tension will always find what it perceives is the quickest, most efficient path to resolve itself. Even if it's not in your highest benefit, okay? It will resolve itself in the quickest and most efficient way, okay? So that's one of the assumptions. So we're going to look at the behaviors. Where was the power? because the power is in how you resolved the tension by looking at the behaviors that you did in order to resolve the tension. So where was that power for you? Where and how did you resolve the tension in that conversation, Narelle?
By labeling and blaming, just bringing, well, you did this and you said that, and yeah.
Okay, labeling and blaming, and so what, did he just cop it and go okay, or did things escalate and hang up, or where was the power in there? How was it actually resolved?
No, there was a point where he labeled me as juvenilely dependent on him, and I just turned around and said, well, you're the one that lives with your dad, and hung up the phone. Then I took a few breaths and rung back so we could resolve what we actually were talking about to do with the kids. And then it was just a matter of we're going to have to agree to disagree on that area, but we've lost what we're talking about, so we need to get back on track about, resolving the issue with my daughter.
Okay.
Because we're making it about us and it's getting personal.
Okay, so initially the way that you resolved the tension was that you guys that you hung up the phone and had a breather. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
You hung up the phone and bought yourself some space.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, that was how it was. Okay. So when you're having a look then, so what was the end result? What was the end result? You called back, and did you resolve things? You agreed to? We
resolved, like I was saying about the kids, but we didn't resolve.
Okay.
That, yeah. It's almost like the seeking approval. Like I'm trying to seek his approval of where I am and my values, and
Perfect. So you'll never resolve that if you're just trying to get his approval. I can say this to Narelle because we've done a bit of work around this, and I know she's fully aware of her. She's fully aware of her. She owns her strengths, but she's also aware of her shadow side as well. So notice that the power is either in the end result, okay, or resolving your identity, okay. And in that particular scenario, the power was not in the end result. The power was in both of them trying to resolve their identities. Okay, when she's come here, as soon as she said at the beginning, I'm not feeling good enough, she's going to be trying to prove that she's good enough straight away. As soon as that belief is triggered that I'm not good enough, unless you're able to catch yourself and focus on the end result, you're going to go straight into proving that. And then what happens when you're trying to prove that you're good enough to someone? What do they naturally do? They try to prove to you that you're not good enough, because they're trying to, this is where this whole matrix starts playing out, that the universe is to the degree that you are forcefully trying to prove that you're good enough, you will attract somebody equal but opposite trying to prove to you that you're not good enough to snap you back into the center. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, thank you so much, Narelle. That was such a perfect example. I couldn't have actually asked for a better example with that, because that just shows us perfectly how our beliefs, when they're triggered, get us into this like really unproductive waste of energy. Now, if you had have gone into that with the intention of being aware, being aware that I've got this shadow side to me, I'm aware that sometimes when I talk to my ex-husband, this belief system is triggered, but for today, I'm going to put this aside and focus on what I want the end result to be. So what did you want the end result to be, Narelle? What was your end result?
I really didn't have one.
Okay, so appreciate your honesty.
Really?
If you don't have an intention of what you want the end result to be, then don't be surprised when this stuff's triggered. Okay. But let's just now, in hindsight, let's looking back, what did you want the end result to be? There was an outcome that you desired for your daughter.
Yeah, I wanted her home with me.
Okay. So if you wanted your daughter home with you, is there a different behavior that you could have done instead of you guys getting into name calling and then hanging up the phone? If your pure goal and intention was to get your daughter home, was there do you have different choices available to you? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so at this point, it would just be a case of Narelle jotting down what those choices are. And then next time when she's going into a conversation, rather than going in like blind Freddy and going, okay, I'm just going to pick up the phone, and see if we can resolve this. Getting very clear on, okay, I'm going to pick up the phone, but my intention is not to resolve my ego, which, sometimes we get in patterns with our ex-partners. Okay, of, we can get into, patterns that are not beneficial to us. Then we label the other person as toxic, but, Narelle, can you see how you played a part in this coming about? Yeah, perfect. So if Narelle was to get really clear on her intention and go in, well, Narelle, I'll ask you, if you were to get clear on your intention and go in, and there was different options available to you in terms of your behaviors, do you think you would have had a greater chance of actually achieving your objective?
Yeah.
Okay, so the name of the game, people, is to become a conscious creator. Okay, we call this, we call the next course being a conscious creator. We don't call it automatic reactors. We call it conscious creators. Okay. So this is about being a conscious creator and being able to discern where you're coming from. Okay. Because your ego holds these sort of, unconscious beliefs, and they will play out and they will get in the way of you fulfilling your values. Okay, they will get in the way. So, Narelle, thank you so much. I know it's not easy to be put on the spot like that.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Nice.
Okay. So any before we wrap things up, I know we've gone a little bit over, but has anyone got any insights, anything that they'd like to share? Any questions? Was that valuable for everyone to see that? Did you all get something out of watching that play out? Okay, perfect. Awesome. Okay, if you would like to find out about the next course, flick me a message if you'd like to jump on a call and ask me any questions. I will post some details up into the group at the end of today, and so that you can see sort of what it's all about. And thank you everyone for being here for day 4. Tomorrow we talk about taking inspired action. So this is where we pull it all together and give you an action plan to take action, not do a bunch of random stuff. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much everyone for being here. Okay, thanks. And yeah, Alex, we'll be in touch. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.